Welcome to ShiftWatch. I'm your host, Starbuck. In this episode, I follow up with Katie in Ireland, who had some questions regarding energy changes around the eclipse. Next, there's a clip from a space weather update thanks to Ben at Suspicious Observers that explains the spike in auroral activities. Then I share a few of the countless real-time records of unusual activity that have been sent to me by others, illustrating the phenomenon we're just beginning to claim some comprehension of. Finally, several conversations this past week centered around Andara Crystals. Doesn't take much to get me all wound up to share what I know about them, what they're made from, and why they're so important during this time of DNA reactivation. So let's begin with this clip from my conversation with Katie, and you can find the link to the entire conversation in the description. So I'm following up with Katie, and you are in Ireland today, right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's actually
Just
beautiful and sunny. Yeah.
good. It's the same where I am, just outside Sedona. But you started to ask me a question, and I want to make sure that we are recording this for posterity and to share with others. And so let's get back to your questions and kind of pick up where we left off last time.
Yeah. Well, can I ask the same question I just asked?
Well, you'll have to ask because nobody else heard it.
Okay, so I'm very curious about what it was like during the solar eclipse time. And what I mean really is a couple hours before and then after, like the day of and the day after, kind of what it was like the energy, how it affected your body and just being in the atmosphere.
I'd like to say that I noticed something different and tangible, but quite honestly, I didn't. And I don't want to say it was much ado about nothing. Let me put this into perspective. The area that I'm in, just outside Sedona, is already elevated energy. And so really, unless something markedly changes, that kind of vibration's already high where I am, and I just kind of slip in and out of it depending on how much other third dimensional white noise is around us all. So I'm not a good barometer for any changes that might have taken place because I was already in a highly charged, highly energetic place to begin with, and I was going through some other changes just having to do with my own journey that I had catapulted into a whole nother spectrum like the week before last anyway, when I decided that I was supposed to be focusing on my own flame for a while. And when I did recognize that and started to do, in fact, that, wow, things opened up and then new people continued to come my way. Look at how we connected. And I just went through the list before, we went live with other people that it's amusing to think that I've been trying to catch up and make sure that I'm accommodated people when I've offered to do these Zoom sessions. Because it's one thing to kind of text back and forth. We really need to speak really personally, one-on-one. To communicate the topics we're talking about. This isn't really translated that well through messaging. And not that I focus on it, but the more that we push all this text out through the internet, the more it's being stored somewhere else anyway. So there's a part of me that says these communications we're having with Tribe, we're all developing them so that most of that is going to take place telekinetically, and using those methods anyhow. We're just reestablishing ourselves, and the community is like assembling itself once again. Ben Davidson at Suspicious Observers has been a valuable resource in helping me understand the nature of the solar system and the changes taking place with all the elevated energy coming at the Earth from the cosmos. Here's a clip to that splendid explanation, and you can find the link to the entire video in the description.
The unexpected, now expected. The surprising, now the new normal. All because the magnetic poles of Earth are shifting, the magnetic field is weakening, the disaster cycle is about to reset and bring about the next age of Earth. We begin with what happened this week. A mild solar flare in CME was expected to impact on the 18th. Instead, it was slower and less potent than expected and arrived an entire day late on the 19th. The official forecast was initially for a KP5, a level 1, mild geomagnetic storm condition from the solar impact, and when it was late, most forecasters suggested the storm watch had been canceled. Instead, we took a level 3 KP7 event, a strong solar storm. Luckily, it was short-lived. This was completely unexpected according to every forecast, and especially because it was slower and weaker than they initially thought it would be. But as rare point auroras flooded the skies of Russia in places that almost never get to see the northern lights, there was one group of people who were not so surprised. That would be the suspicious observers. Those here who know exactly what's happening and have been watching this happen over and over again for 13 months. To exemplify the magnitude of this event, aurora were spotted in Missouri, and for that, we usually require a KP9, level 5 storm condition. So what was expected to be a level 1 event was actually weaker and slower than expected, and yet caused level 3 storms in the magnetic field of our planet, which behaved like level 5 storms in terms of the solar energy penetrating down into the atmosphere. Scientific journals do take a while to publish, and while they are beginning to publish those stories about how shockingly strong the events were a year ago, we can show you the real-time data and break down what has happened over the last year. So let's begin that process, which is driven by the latest and most extreme acceleration in the ongoing magnetic pole shift, by re-watching a video from late last year when records fell, and the evidence was already clear that something was very wrong. Let's watch that here, and then we'll come back and break down the future. The 2003 Halloween solar superstorm produced low-latitude aurora down to the southernmost states. This has happened before, but not often, and it takes major X-class solar flares, extreme speed CME plasma striking Earth, and top-level geomagnetic storms. I went ahead and looked up the times that aurora were seen in the southernmost states, and here is a brief list going back to the Carrington event of 1859. The top lines are ones that happened in the same solar cycle. They certainly seem to be getting more common as time goes on, even as light pollution makes them harder and harder to see. This fact alone is a signal that Earth's aurora are getting more extreme, and with the fact that solar activity is not breaking any records, it confronts normalcy bias and reminds us this is exactly what we are expecting as Earth's magnetic field weakens in the ongoing excursion and magnetic pole shift. Folks, just 5 days after that video was posted, it happened again. Of all the evidence we've seen so far, the auroral records being obliterated in a modest solar activity year was really something else. Not only are we entering the pole shift, the magnetic reversal, the reset of the disaster cycle in the next age of Earth, but we had a tremendous magnetic anomaly resulting in the acceleration in March of 2023. This perfectly explains why things are accelerating at an alarming rate now, and why the unexpected has become the expected. Our key graph from the magnetic field loss had estimated that 2023 was our inflection point, where the gradual curve took a steeper bend and we began the long drop down to the catastrophe. With Sergei's new paper, we now know that it was the magnetic anomaly and acceleration that drove the auroral records and unexpectedly high KP index of solar storms. It means we are likely only 1 or 2 major accelerations away from hitting criticality. What happened just a few days ago was a sign that all our assumptions, and then that published conclusion, are not wrong. A level 1 expectation was a weaker impact than expected, but proceeded to produce level 3 storm conditions and level 5 solar energy penetration into the atmosphere.
Any of you who have spent any time with me have likely heard about Andara Crystals and how special they are to me. It's my hope and intent that one day soon I can share a podcast with Mickey Magic. In all my research, he is the foremost authority on the topic of Andaras, still with us today. In the meantime, I'm sharing some of the Andara images I've witnessed and captured. Enjoy.